Good morning. This is Dot Siegfried. When David asked me to say a few words about my hopes and dreams for 2021, I was taken aback. I thought, what can I say that would be any different from what anyone else would say or think? But then I thought, what does that say about me? If I can't even express my thoughts about hope for the future. And so here I am. First, I want to say I am sorry to all the people and the families who have lost loved ones from COVID. I am sorry from the bottom of my heart. Second, I want to say, as others have said, thank you to all those who were brave enough to continue to work during this time to nurture the sick, to feed the homeless and the hungry, to continue to work so that the food supply did not break down for any of us. For it was they who truly realized their one moment in time when they became more than they thought they could be. And they were brave enough to act on it. At times during this pandemic, I was so afraid and terrified that any morning I would wake up and someone in our family would be stricken. And so, like almost everyone else, we began to isolate. I found this very difficult since it's just John and me. Sure, we spoke to our kids and admonished them to be safe, but it certainly wasn't the same. I truly, truly missed human contact. One of the things that we began to do when the weather was warmer was sit in the middle of our cul-de-sac in the street. Eventually, the other neighbors started to come out one by one and sit with us in a circle. Socially distanced, of course. I was reminded of the old cowboy and Indian movies I watched when I was a kid. It was kind of like we were in a COVID powwow. We talked about our families, our fears and worries, and what was the latest in politics, and when the vaccine would come, and where we could be tested. We learned so much about our neighbors during this time, more than we had in more than 20 years that we lived there. And then it gradually started to happen. We would ask each other if anyone needed anything when one of us went to the store or the farm for vegetables. We started to share things more, like cookies and baked goods, soup, or a casserole, just because we were making them. We knew when others were feeling bad or scared or lonely, and we called them more often. Sometimes I'd bring them floral arrangements to lift their spirits. I guess these things should have been happening all along, but they weren't. We were practicing simple human kindness, and it really made a difference. Even in the grocery stores, total strangers seemed kinder to each other, often saying they were sorry if they got too close, or allowing you to go ahead of them in a line. This brings me to my hopes for the future. I hope that in 2021, we continue this kindness. I hope it becomes second nature to us. I hope that we never return to complacency, not realizing that others have the same fears and worries that we do, and that we are all one human family. I hope that we continue to appreciate nature more, as we seem to have done during these times, when we finally take a look out our windows and see a beautiful goldfinch or titmouse or playing squirrels or beautiful blooms popping out of the earth. Lady Bird Johnson, you might remember, had a Beautify America program where she planted wildflowers along the highways while Lyndon was president. And Lady Bird said, "Where flowers bloom, so does hope." And so, my dear friends, for 2021, I wish for you kindness, warmth of human spirit, and many blooming flowers. Thank you.
Good morning. Today my talk is in two parts. The first is an editorial my father wrote to the Kentucky Times Star, published in Covington, Kentucky, and it was published on Thursday, December 24th, 1953, while I was at university. It was entitled "A Light That Encircled the World," and it goes this way. Brenton Grant of Ryland earned his livelihood as a public relations expert, and he was an expert. The Christmas message that he has sent to his friends and associates is a modern-day appraisal of an old, undying story. We find it so interesting that we wish to share it with our readers. Mr. Grant writes, quote, "Once there was a man with a deep belief that he wanted to share with all the world. He didn't know any public relations people, so he just went around telling his belief to those who would listen. In all his life, he could not have been heard by more than a few hundred, not so many as hear a single broadcast from a small town radio station. A good public relations counsel might have advised him to enlist the support of influential people or conduct an opinion poll so he could trim his belief to what people thought they want to hear. Perhaps something of the sort crossed his mind once when he stood high on a hill overlooking some cities, but he put the thought behind him. He was content to talk to the simple folk of the villages and those who lived by the sea. He would not alter his belief even though his life was the forfeit. Yet the glory and wonder of his words thundered over mountain barriers and echoed down broad valleys from city to city to the sea and across the sea to beyond until they glowed in the hearts of men everywhere, wherever his name was heard, and his name was the light of the world. There were in his day no printing presses, no radio or television networks, and few could spell out the written word. But there was in him the secret of making men listen and believe. They listened because his great love reached out to them and healed the scars of sham and fear and guilt that hid their souls. They believed there was no selfish thought behind his words. We public relations men have learned to send our speech around the world and our writings into millions of homes. But the great secret of communication that promises peace on earth, goodwill toward men, lies open in the life of our Master for all who will to read. Now the second part I'd like to talk about at this Christmas time and after Christmas, the holidays between Christmas and New Year's, are my great hopes for the future. I don't know when in the future, and probably a long ways off, but here they are. My first great hope is for the widespread restoration of interpersonal trust. That will lead to more trusting and loving relationships between all peoples. It would ease tensions and promote well-being, as well as helping people to help others in many ways, and expand our outreach philosophy. Our second great hope is that when people will find talking things over is much better than war. During my working life, I found that just the exercise of coming together to bring some light to problems that involve us all in some way can bring solutions which work and stand a good chance of lasting long, quite apart from the symbols that seem to penetrate faiths worldwide. Good things do happen. My third great hope is the religious communities will become a catalyst for leadership management development through a complete revision of the curriculum used to educate such people for a life of ministering to communities. The emphasis needs to concentrate on interpersonal relationship management. A good example of the needs are found in Harry Emerson's Fosdick's book on Being a Real Person, published in 1934. Having solid business management leadership, churches will bring that light, which will encircle our world and the hearts of all. Thank you.